In this week's 1% Weekly, we ask Nick Rathel what's changed about direct marketing now that we live in a digital world. We find out what's going on in the weird world of cryptos, and we ask, why are more people than ever taking HMRC to court? Nick Rathel's background is very much in direct mail and printed media, but like all of us, he's had to adapt to a whole brave new world of digital, email, and video. Let's find out what's changed and what stayed the same. So Nick, we've talked about copywriting and direct mail with very much kind of an emphasis on printed media.
Yes.
But obviously we can't end this discussion without looking at the whole new wonderful world of digital media that's coming around. So really, I suppose the fundamental question I'd like to get your thoughts on is what's changed and what stayed the same in the world of digital media?
Well, what's changed, I think, is if you cast our mind back, those of us who remember the wild west of 56K dial-up, about 20 years ago, it was a great, wonderful new medium. There was going to be the paper-free office, whatever happened to that, and the whole world was going to change, which is true to an extent, but not really, because whilst broadband speeds and connectivity have increased, there's actually far more clutter now, and the market has become infinitely more fragmented, a bit like with television, where you were BBC or an ITV family, now you've got an infinite number of channels, not to mention Netflix and box sets, and it's pretty much the same online with a vast amount of niches but far more clutter. And on the similar front, I think, as you mentioned earlier, with direct mail, it's very much the same. It's copy, offer, but actually getting it delivered, opened and read is far more difficult than it is with correctly executed direct mail.
Yeah, and I think it's clear that as you say, we went from those slow old days to a kind of I guess a peak of people having great internet access, getting loads of emails and quite enjoying all of that, and then suddenly we seem to hit kind of overload.
Yes.
And it got to the point where open rates are going down, people are not reading it so much, their attention span is diminishing. So how can we continue to succeed in a world where people are just not opening what we're sending them, or they've barely got time to consume it?
Well, Graham, I expect most of your guests talk about quotes from people like Deepak Chopra and the Dalai Lama. I'm going to use one from Bruce Willis in Die Hard 4.0, which makes an extremely valid point and one that's fundamental to whether or not you might succeed in this area of digital marketing. In the film Die Hard 4.0, Bruce Willis is taunted by the baddie who is shutting down America and is an IT whiz. And he mocks him by calling him a Timex in a digital age. I am a proud Timex in a digital age, and if you can't connect with your customers and clients via direct mail, you may actually decide to forego it altogether. What people tend to forget is that 80% of the wealth in this country is held by people over the age of 50. At one of your EIC events I went to, you mentioned that 2,000 people turn 70 every day. So you might want to take the drastic step of not doing any digital marketing at all, because maybe your market doesn't read that medium. Maybe they do, in which case, look to try and get open rates up and approach it that way. But if you are going to the over 50s, they may only use the internet to email their children and grandchildren.
Yeah, no, it's certainly a challenge, I think, for business owners to get the right mix of strategies as to how they communicate with people, because a lot of people think, well, email is free. I can cobble up a little email and send it out to my circulation list in a few minutes.
Yes.
But in a sense, I think every time you do that, you're kind of almost risking. You're either going to strengthen the relationship or weaken it by that communication.
Absolutely.
So what do you think are the best ways in which people can use digital media to strengthen the relationship they have with their clients?
That leads perfectly in what I was about to say about email. These days, cold email open rates are plummeting, as you've said, and quite rightly as well. I would use email to build the customer relationship if you need an urgent alert. And again, you would to let your customers know what you're doing if there's an announcement or as an added on value service above and beyond what you do via direct mail, which of course takes a few days to put together. If you have an announcement of something, I think that's a great way to build it, or have a short e-newsletter that gives them great facts and builds the relationship that way.
So you'd be suggesting a mixture of some stuff going in the physical mail,
yes,
and some of the kind of more time-sensitive stuff perhaps by email.
Oh, very much so. And also not just email, but widening it to other digital delivery systems. Things like text messages. I have a service where I send SMS messages to clients once or twice a week. But again, they're aware of that, they've paid for it, and I've made it crystal clear in the sales material that that's what they're going to get as part of their service. So they're prepared for it. People don't like nasty surprises. No, nice surprises, yes, but not nasty ones. So as long as you let people know and be honest as to your motivations as to why you're doing it, I think that's an excellent added-on service you can offer.
And what about the wonderful world of video now? Because, I mean, obviously we ourselves are speaking here in this medium of video on YouTube. In fact, somebody commented on one of my 1% Weekly episodes the other day, and they sent a link to another video they felt was relevant, which turned out to be a Katy Perry pop video. I was struggling to see the relevance, but then I looked at the numbers, and she had had 512 million views of her video compared to the sort of 272 that I had. So I had a little bit of YouTube envy going on there. But,
yes.
You know, where do you think video sits in this world of sort of copywriting and direct marketing?
Well, even though, as you may have guessed by now, I am a dyed-in-the-wool direct mail fan, I think video and YouTube is the future. Though sadly or happily, depending on your point of view, in say 10 or 20 years, that's probably all there's going to be. You look at Facebook, for example, I think they've almost halved their traffic downwards in the last 2 years. And where are all these people going? Mostly millennials, but they're all going to YouTube. So I think YouTube, and as I said, from a point of view of adding a value to your service, I think it's a great way and an immediate way to put a face to the name, and enhance what it is you're already offering them.
Okay. So when clients come to you looking for a direct marketing strategy,
yes,
are you finding now that you're increasingly putting together almost a multimedia approach?
Yes, the two main strands I find, and it goes in waves. 5-10 years ago, it was almost all email campaigns. Now it's the twin approach of direct mail and also long copy video sales letters, not just 90 seconds ones, which I do quite a lot of, just as lead-ins, but these enormous things, and you've seen them from the States, anything from 30, 45, even 60 to 90 minutes long, just a PowerPoint with a voice saying the words, which you think, how can they work? But then you look at the conversion rates and they're going well. So to answer your question, those are the two things I do most of at the moment.
I think one of the most successful ones ever was called The End of America.
Oh, yes.
And I think it was a 2-hour video, as you say, PowerPoint kind of presentation.
Yes.
Which converted enormously into subscribers to a financial newsletter.
Yes.
And who would imagine that in this day and age, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people would sit through something the length of a feature film,
yes,
at their computer and then go buy something?
It is amazing, but as I mentioned before, copy can never be too long, only too boring. And if it resonates that well with a market, then the sky's the limit, really.
Okay, so try and just summarize our discussion on this whole theme of direct marketing. What do you think, for any business owners watching us, what do you think would be the top 3 or 4 things that they should think about with their own direct marketing strategy?
Well, once again, start with the end in mind. Be crystal clear as to exactly what you want to achieve, whether it's direct mail or video or a more multimedia approach. Be extremely clear what you want to achieve. Make sure the copy matches the message to the market as well. Here's one I haven't mentioned, which is crucial. If you do nothing else but make a list of all the objections that your clients may have to your product or service, things like no time, no perceived difference to other products, no interest, no money obviously is a key one, things like that. If you tick off the objections like that, then that you're most of the way there. And then also the after sales, how do you handle the orders? Are your staff aware of what you're doing, and how to fulfill the orders, and where do you go once you've got the first order, which you want to make an easy one?
That's brilliant stuff. Great information there. Nick Rowell, thank you very much.
Thank you, Graham.
So some great advice from Nick there. And do have a look at your own strategy for direct response marketing. Are you using direct mail? How are you using video? And could you improve the way you're using email to get a stronger relationship with your clients? It's been a pretty weird 12 months in the world of cryptocurrencies. Last year we had what seemed like the biggest boom and the biggest bubble since tulip bulbs, with Bitcoin going up and dragging up all the others with it to crazy levels of 10, 12, 15, 18, $19,000. Well, today it sits around $6,000. It's down 70% from its peak. Ethereum, the other sort of great white hope in this area, is down a similar amount. Some of the altcoins, as they're called, have been slashed by 80 or 90%. So most investors are nursing significant losses, wondering whether they just sort of lick their wounds and stay in the game, hoping it all recovers, or whether they just take the pain now and get out while they can. And obviously, opinion varies. I mean, the person whose opinion I probably value the most in this space is Siam Kidd, who many of you have seen present at our events. You've seen him on my various TV series and things. He's been deeply involved in cryptos for some years now, and he's actually feeling that this is a turning point in the market, that obviously everyone's feeling bruised and battered. But in a recent article, he kind of pointed out some of the milestones along the way to wider acceptance of cryptocurrencies and why he feels that this is actually not the time to get out the market and that we are potentially now heading towards the next big upswing. And he was saying that obviously we need to get Wall Street involved, and that's now starting to happen. There needs to be a futures market, and that's now been established. They also need custodial services to get more like kind of the world of stocks and shares. And they're seeing Coinbase as a sort of a crypto bank that can provide them with facilities they're looking for as they start to get involved on some kind of significant scale. The next big milestone would be the launch of a crypto exchange traded fund, an ETF. And once that happens, the company behind that ETF, of course, by definition, is going to have to buy shed loads of cryptos. And that's the sort of thing that will start the next market boom and a market peak. So he then sees others getting on board. He sees derivative products coming on board, options, futures, all the things we've seen in the stocks and shares world, because then you get leverage, and then you can start to increase your returns by using that leverage, assuming obviously prices are going in your direction. So as far as Siam's concerned, this is not a period to give in and leave, take your money off the table. He's saying this is a period to be clear about what you're doing. Recognize that you are in a volatile market. You should only be in there with risk capital. You should not be in there with your life savings, the family silver, your house remortgaged 17 times, which, some idiots have done that, and you see the sob stories when the latest coin crashes and burns. They never told us it could go down as well as up. Oh, really? What stone have you been living under? So as long as you know what you're doing, it's at the frothier end of your portfolio, and you're only playing with risk capital, Siam's view is that this is potentially a time to either stay in the market or even to get into the market. Now, I came close to getting into the market. I obviously showed all the symptoms of FOMO, fear of missing out. I thought Bitcoin was in a bubble at $500, then again at 1,000. I thought it was bonkers at 10,000, and it nearly doubled again from there. I confess to a bit of schadenfreude as I watched it coming down before Christmas last year, but it does seem to have more or less bedded down around the $5,000 or $6,000 mark. So maybe it has found its level, or maybe it's just waiting for the next big leap up. And certainly if you look at some of the major tech giants, they've gone through similar kinds of processes as they've survived the initial tech crash in the early part of this millennium, and then the Amazons and the Googles and whatever have come through to become record-breaking shares, going up and up and up beyond all reason. I think Amazon, last time I looked, had a 400-year payback period if you wanted to look at the price-earnings ratio. So it looks like experts are saying there is still big money to be made from cryptos. Probably the next big leap will come when things like the ETF are in place and it becomes almost more like a traditional stocks and shares market. We're starting to see some of the big banks. I know Barclays recently set up a crypto trading desk. That's a great sign. We are about to launch a bond that has some involvement in the crypto markets as well. So I think there's going to be some new products coming out that are going to actually bring cryptos more into the mainstream, and therefore that means a lot more people and a lot more institutions getting on board with them. And whenever you get a sudden surge in demand, there's only one way that prices are going to go. So this could well be a time to start positioning yourself for the next big surge in cryptos. The fight back, it seems, has begun. People are getting fed up to the back teeth with the way they're being treated by HMRC, and a record number have taken them to court, all the way up to a judicial review. The number of judicial reviews last year increased by 36% on the year before. And let me tell you, a judicial review is the highest and most expensive form of fight back that you can possibly do. Typically, you're talking about £100,000 plus to mount a judicial review. And in the last tax year, no fewer than 122 people were prepared to put 100 grand on the table to take HMRC to court. That's how hacked off they were with the way they'd been treated. And HMRC is getting more and more aggressive. It's getting intransigent in terms of refusing to listen to reason or to respond in a sensible way. And they claim that they're under political pressure to raise more tax. That would appear to mean it's okay to treat people in an utterly contemptuous way, to refuse to respond or to respond in a reasonable way. And of course, when you've got bottomless pockets that are paid for by the taxpayer, you can afford to say, well, if you don't like it, take me to court. See if I care. I'm a big bully with all the money in the world behind me, and it doesn't matter about you, the little guy, because I'm in charge. I've got all the power here. And by the way, if you saw and knew and understood all the powers that HMRC have been given, including little morsels like being able to come into your account and take money without asking your permission, yeah, it's almost like a police state. They haven't actually yet got an armed SWAT team, I don't think, but they're probably thinking seriously about that. But they can come and confiscate all your computers, all your goods, anything they could sell to pay tax. And of course, they can issue advance payment notices, accelerated payment notices to get you to pay even tax that's in dispute before anything's been proven. They can insist that you pay the money. And I've known people who have had to sell their house at 30 days notice at a fire sale price just to get the cash together to do that. So they have draconian powers. What's really scary is they're now using them as a matter of routine. It's exactly the same as we've seen with councils and they're using anti-terror laws to check on people's wheelie bins. Once you give them the power, these bureaucrats are going to use and abuse it with impunity. And why is there impunity? Because the only people affected are the rich. They're people who are big enough and wealthy enough to have significant tax disputes with HMRC. And of course, what we're now seeing is these are people who are big enough and wealthy enough to say, hold on a minute, I'm not going to take that. I'm not going to let you treat me like this. I'm taking you to court and I'm going to put 100 grand down on the table to do so. Now, the good news is if you get involved in a dispute with HMRC, it doesn't have to start with a huge commitment like that. There are a series of steps you can go through. The first one is to ask for an ADR, an alternative dispute resolution. If you're not satisfied with the outcome of the alternative dispute resolution, you can then escalate it to the adjudicator's office, who you can ask to examine your complaint free of charge. If you're still not happy with that outcome, you can ask your MP to refer your complaint to the Parliamentary Ombudsman, and it's only if you still don't get any satisfaction there that your last resort would be to take it through to a judicial review. But the point is, more and more people are now saying enough is enough. I'm not going to just take this lying down just because it's HMRC. I actually feel strongly enough about the way I've been treated that I'm going to put a significant amount of personal capital at risk just to try and clear my name and to win this battle with an intransigent, increasingly belligerent, bullying HMRC. The fight back has begun. Let's take it all the way. Thanks for watching 1% Weekly. If you like what you see, why not subscribe to the channel and don't forget to click the bell so you get notified every time we broadcast a new program. Or if you just want to watch another video, how about this one? Are you going to make a choice then? Because I can't sort of stay here all day. I'm getting my hands are getting tired. So in your own time,